Hello children, bonjour les enfants, ça va? How are you? I hope you're good. Today we are going to learn about bees. Aujourd'hui, we are going to learn about les abeilles. Les abeilles en anglais, bee. 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 Now, bees love flowers. Flower, fleur en anglais, c'est flower. Tu dis flower. Flower, c'est comme ça. And bees take nectar from the flowers and they make honey. Miel en anglais, c'est honey. Tu dis honey. Honey, c'est écrit comme ça. Honey, miel. Okay, I'm going to read a book called The Bumblebear. It's about a bear, les ours, a bear who wants to be a bee. Il veut faire une baie, les abeilles. Okay, so I'm going to read this to you today. Once there was a bear called Norman who really loved honey. He really, really, really loved it, and he was always sad when it ran out. But getting hold of more honey was always a bit tricky. If only I could be a bee, he sighed. I could have as much honey as I liked. And then Norman had quite an amazing and brilliant idea. It was an ordinary morning at bee school. "Hello, bees," said the Queen, who was in charge. "We have a new bee at bee school today." "Ooh," said the little bees. "Everybody say hello to Norman." "Hello," said Norman. "Oh," said the little bees. "Aren't you a bit big?" asked Amelia, who was a rather clever little bee. I'm a special bee," said Norman. "I come from a land far, far away called, Giant Bee Land." Said Amelia. But then it was time for lessons to start. The day began with some painting. Then Norman joined in with buzzing practice before everyone settled down for a nap. The bees showed him all sorts of games during playtime, and Norman was brilliant at waggly dancing. And then it was time to go home. Bee school is amazing, thought Norman, and couldn't wait to come back the next day. The next day was even better. Norman was very good at finding smelly flowers. The bees really liked him. He was so funny and friendly and always tried his best, even during flying lessons. After lunch, the bees learned how to chase away anyone who came after their honey, like spiders, mice, toads, or bears. Amelia still felt there was something a little bit odd about Norman, and she tried to work out what it was. Amelia told the other bees what she had found out, but the bees didn't believe her. "Of course Norman's a bee. Just look at him." Buzz. "He is not a bee, and I shall prove it," said Amelia. She took Norman to the bees' secret honey store. Well, when Norman saw all that honey, he just couldn't help himself. "Honey, honey, 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 honey!" After all, he really, really, really loved honey. See, Norman isn't a bee, he's a bear, said Amelia. What the chickens? Gasped all the little bees. Said Norman. He was asked to leave bee school at once. But with Norman gone, things were very quiet at bee school. Norman was such a funny bee, sighed the bees. Norman was such a busy bee, said Amelia. Norman was a naughty bear, said the Queen, and bee school is no place for bears. But later that night, the bees heard a crash and a diabolical roar. Oh no, they cried. It's a bear! And this bear was big and nasty, and he trampled all over bee school, and he grabbed the hive and started to shake, and all the little bees tumbled out in panic. They tried to chase the bear away, but it was just too big and too bad. But then a fearsome buzzing beast burst through the trees. Buzz! Ah! Squealed the bear. It's a giant bee! And it ran away as fast as it could. The bees were saved and Norman was a hero. The Queen gave him a big pot of honey and presented him with a special award. You definitely aren't a bee, said the Queen, but you are no ordinary bear. You are, I think, a Bumblebear. And Bumblebears were definitely allowed to go back to bee school. The end.